Hi there. Today I'll take a look at the game between Anand and Kramnik. Was played in the World Blitz Championship in Moscow in 2007. Kramnik was playing with the white pieces. He started with knight to f3, and after a few moves, we ended up in the exchange variation of the Slav defense. This is all the main line, and here Anand plays a6, which is really fairly fashionable, flexible move. It prevents white from coming out to b5 with the bishop, and it's also kind of flexible because black is waiting to see what white's gonna do. At the same time, it's a bit slow. It doesn't develop a piece. It also it kind of weakens slightly the queen side, but it takes some understanding to exploit that weakening. So now Anand develops the bishop, and white just kind of slowly finishes development. So he castles, and now once white finished development, he begins to build some initiative on the queen side. And this is a little awkward because now the queen attacks the pawn on b7, and the bishop guards these two squares, so the queen or the rook can't go there. There's no terribly convenient way of defending those pawns, that pawn, but the best move was probably queen to d7, which is not natural because it walks into knight a4. Now it seems like the knight's coming to b6, exploiting that weakening of the dark squares after a6. But it turns out here black has an accurate defense with knight to a5, even though white then still maintains some pressure in this position. In the game, instead, Anand played what is probably a blunder. He went knight to a5 immediately. Well, it's natural. Attack the queen and defend the pawn. But it's a little too soon to be kind of so aggressive because the black king is still in the center, and Kramnik exploits that with a check. So now queen to d7 on knight to d7 is a little awkward. If knight d7 and knight t5, building up the pressure. So Anand found nothing better than going back, and remember it's a blitz game, and he overlooked the shot bishop a6. It's very thematic because it exploits both problems with pawn to a6. The pawn is a target here. It's also slow, so if instead of pawn to a6, if black had already castled, then the pin wouldn't be a pin, and a6 wouldn't be a target. But the way it is, white can play bishop to a6, and the idea is that in the case of the natural pawn takes, white begins to work against the pin, and it turns out that there's really no defense against this, and basically white is going to regain, well, not the full piece. Well, actually, he will regain the piece, yeah, and he then remains up a pawn, which really black doesn't have any compensation for, pretty much. So that's that, and instead Anand tries to play, well, he tries to create counterplay. He attacks the bishop, and he tries to create a counter pin, but because of black's lack of development, it backfires, and Kramnik sacrifices the queen, and he remains with a rook and two pieces for that queen. Sorry, a rook, a piece, and two pawns. And it turns out that because the black king is also, not in the best place, the rook can't come out. So it's really these two pawns. They're going to be an important factor here. It's going to be hard for black to stop them. So the game actually didn't last that long after that, and black generally scores quite poorly in this position, which has occurred in some other games. So it's all a bit of a known trap, which I suspect Kramnik knew about. And here black's problems don't end here, right? Now white threatens to come in with the rook and win back the queen. So Anand has to, defend against that, but that's not really a defense because white takes, and here he continues to build up the pressure. Now the queen doesn't have a terribly good square to go to. If he goes to queen to b4, for example, then this is gonna win that rook while in the game, for example. So instead he goes queen to d7, but that just walks into the same problems. So Black basically never got to finish his development in this game. The king never got to castle, and it seems a little naive, but in some ways a6 had something to do with that loss. So there was a blitz game between Kramnik and Anand from 2007 Blitz Championship, and it shows that in the Slav exchange variation, you can get some technical fireworks sometimes if you know what you're doing, like Kramnik does.